as always, I don't think there's any kind of always here. Still figuring out the format. Get started with the dab, Baru, some concentrates. As we're waiting for folks to show up to hang out with us here, just a moment. Eating. Hello, welcome everyone. Grovel, good to see you, man. And is that Kyle? Welcome. Glad you can make it, Grovel. Getting my dab heated up here. Finishing off this strawberry shortcake that I've had for about a week now. Just about out of my wax. Gonna have to go re-up sometime soon. And let's begin. Hi guys, almost done here. Thanks for hanging around. And then finally, I'll go ahead and make a fresh volcano bag as well, which I'll bring back. Okay. So, about half an hour before I came on stream here, I finally finished my select one-to-one drops that I've been doing since last week. I probably did, I would say right around 100 milligrams of both CBD and THC, probably just slightly more than 100 milligrams of each of those. So I finally finished off my select tincture, and it's starting to take effect, believe it or not. So, Grovel says, you have good eyes to be able to read from back there. I do, Grovel. It's the one thing that I've got going for me, anatomically speaking. I've always had great eyesight. It's going to suck when it starts to go, which should be any day now, knowing my age. 13 says, love that video review you did with the homemade cookies. You look high as fuck off of that. Yes, I did. Yes, I was. That's the proper way of saying that, 13. That was a lot of fun to do. I actually did that review way back in March, I believe, near the very beginning of this pandemic. And just had it sitting there in the archives and decided to give it a release. Brother Dank! Welcome, Brother Dank. Brother Dank on Periscope says he takes 500 milligrams of CBD. That is quite the dose of the CBD there, Brother Dank. What kind of form do you take your CBD in? Do you do it through tincture? Do you do flower? 500 milligrams, I'm guessing you're going to have to do some kind of ingestible in some way to get that much in you. But I'm curious what 500 milligrams of CBD feels like, Brother Dank. I've never done more than really at 100 at a stretch, and CBD is always kind of a very subtle sort of feeling for me. So it's been a while since I've never done anything in that sort of range. And Brother Dank says he does it in powder in a capsule. Okay. Well, Brother Dank, how do you feel? What are the sensations going through your head and through your body when you're on that much CBD? I'm super curious. I often find people have a hard time articulating what it is that CBD does for them specifically. I'm not suggesting at all that they don't feel anything. I just think it's a more the feeling is more qualia, I guess. It's harder to, it's less universal. It's harder to explain in sort of concrete terms. I don't know, but most people I know who do CBD pretty seriously speak about it in more sort of therapeutic type terms, and less like concrete. This is what it does to me. This is how I feel. And Brother Dank says, it's an exquisite clean and a good chill. Well, I'm glad to hear that, man. I hope you are enjoying your 500 milligrams of CBD, and it puts you in that frustratingly difficult to spell word, exquisite. I'm pretty sure there's a C in there. Exquisite. Boy, that is a very odd word now that you mention it. Or now that I'm seeing it. Exquisite. And X is usually a prefix for... And so... But... Exquisite doesn't seem like one of those words that has a... oh boy, there's a very fun term for words that seem like that they should be, should have a root word because it seems like they have a prefix or a suffix, but don't actually. There's a terminology for that, but believe it or not, can't remember it. Andrew Silva says, "What's up? Welcome back, Andrew. Good to see you again, man. Hope you're doing well." And says, "What do you do for work, Wheats?" Just curious. Good question. Well, my degree, I'm trained as a science writer to write about scientific academic writing, and I'm trained to help interpret academic writing for a mass audience. Most recently, though, I had been doing more mental health type stuff, and then since the pandemic began, I purchased a bicycle with a freezer, built-in freezer, battery-powered freezer, and had been selling ice cream until the pandemic got way worse, and now they don't want people out selling things right now. So right now, I'm doing Wheats at this exact moment. So, oh boy. Brother Dank says, "I also started ADHD meds for Adderall. 3 cheers for Adderall. Hip, hip, hooray. Hip, hip, hooray." Well, I'm glad that drug is working out for you, Brother Dank. I know there are several people I know who have attention deficit disorders of one type or another, whether they're just vanilla or hyperactive. And some either find those... amphetamines to be either the miracle drug that they were waiting their entire life for and cannot believe that it took them so long to come by, or this corruptible drug that saps them of their energy and creativity, and they don't want anything to do with it. People have very strong opinions about it, one way or the other. I'm just glad there is a drug for the people that it can help, and it does seem to help a lot of people, including yourself, man. I'm glad you've found something that works for you. Andrew Silva says, "Did you go to CSULB? I currently go there as an engineering student." No, I did not go to CSULB. My degree is from the University of Tennessee, of all places. This is where I'm from. But CSULB, cool school. Go Beach. Is that what they decided the mascot or the guy is gonna be? Because it was the Prospector, but then that was bad, and then it was... But your baseball team's the Dirtbags or something? Who knows? CSULB. Go Pyramid. I have not been to the Pyramid, other than just driving past it before, though, Mr. Silva, and I really want to check it out, because it's cool. But, pro tip, Silva, and I'm sure this is something you want to smack me for because I'm telling you something that I'm sure you already know, but on your campus, those Japanese gardens are really cool. If you've never been to the Japanese gardens on actual campus, who knows if they're open right now? Who knows? Maybe the whole campus is locked down, tighter than a national lab. I don't know. But if it's not, or when they do reopen, check them out. They are very beautiful. I think I filmed a review in the gardens once, years ago. I'm pretty sure I just seen the movie The Big Sick and then filmed a follow-up there. Brother Dank says, where can I send you the link for a scientific paper I like to circulate? Well, just send me an email, Brother Dink. I'd love to look at it. What's the paper on, just out of curiosity? And you can email me just at wheatsreviews@gmail.com. I don't think my actual URL works anymore. But yeah, I'd love to check it out. I'm just curious what this paper is about. Hey, Jason, good to see you, man. Glad you are joining us out here. And it's 3 out here in Long Beach as well. Jason, you are my Phoenix brother, right? I believe. Welcome, Christopher. And Christopher at the Venice Beach, waiting for the big 420 to arrive. Venice Beach, Christopher, you lucky man. I haven't been out to Venice Beach since, I think, Christmas time? I thought I just saw some kind of critter in my own... behind me. But maybe not. Venice Beach, oh my god. Trying to... Yeah, the last time I was there, I think I took my wife's parents to Venice Beach for the first time. I think I got them their first churro ever. They watched one of the big dance pits. Gave the kids some monies. Oh, Jason, I'm sorry, man. And yes, that is correct. All PNWs are the time zone, except for, ironically enough, Arizona, half the year, because Arizona does not follow daylight savings time in there for their own weird Arizona regions. Excuse me. Monkey Man 2525. Welcome, Monkey Man. Glad you could join us. How are you doing today? Monkey Man, what's your favorite type of simian? I'm a bonobo guy myself. I'm really good too, man. You got me thinking about monkeys, or simians, or primates, or whatever we're gonna call them. What a cool group of organisms. Mostly terrifying. Shockingly undomesticated. Oh my god, there's a difference between the term domesticated and tamed. Isn't that cool? That like we have these. I always thought those terms were interchangeable, but they are not. There's a very big difference between the word domesticated and tamed. And there's a fun argument to be made about whether cats are actually domesticated or if they are simply just tamed. Now, I know what you're saying out there. Semantics. Who gives a shit about semantics? Well, we wouldn't be on the internet talking if we didn't give a shit about semantics. So let's get into one. A domesticated animal is an animal whose entire lifespan, its entire life from beginning to end, basically is dependent upon a human for survival. If you removed the humans from that equation, the domesticated animals would die. You know, within a generation, maybe 2 generations, if you had some extremely bright outliers on the bell curve that would, you know, figure out how to eke out some kind of existence. But arguably even within 1 generation, especially for farm animals, things like livestock, you know, which are domesticated, horses, or cows, chickens, yada yada, so on and so forth. It's very easy to imagine that the bovine, as we know it, the cow as we know it, would be gone It would be gone within, you know, a year if humans were missing. Dogs, it may take, you know, a generation or 2, because there may be some really smart ones, and there may be even an argument to be made that enough dogs survive that they become something else, that they continue going. But tamed animals are simply animals that have learned to coexist with humans, have learned to live with humans, but do not crucially depend on humans for their livelihoods. Like, they can survive without them, which is an argument to be made about the domesticated, the house cat, that if you took humans out of the equation, you know, outside of the fact that many cats would just be trapped inside of the dwellings that they were in and would slowly thirst and starve to death in a terrible tragedy, if humans were just to disappear, taking that out of account, all the cats that were outside already would have a very good chance of surviving on their own. Cats are still quite adept at being able to procure their own food and water without humans. I mean, they have definitely learned to use them, but it is very possible for them to survive without it. Not true for dogs, unfortunately. Dogs very much need the people to do those things. You know, they'll kill a couple of squirrels or cats and eat those, but mostly they're fucked. And it's that's the difference between domestication and tamed. We've only ever tamed primates of any kind. We've never domesticated any primate. And I find it very strange that we haven't been able to do it. And this is another question I always have, is like, for the animals that we have not domesticated and seem not to be able to, is it an incompatibility between humans and that species, or is it like the lack of willpower? Because we have not domesticated a new animal in fucking forever. We haven't, like, as a species. There are no new, things that we have, whether it be livestock. I mean, we've genetically modified a lot of livestock and made variations of the things that we already have, but there's no, like, brand new category of livestock. There's really no brand new category of companion animal either, and it's just strange to me. Like, have we lost the willpower as a species to do it, or the need to do it? Like, we're at the point now, it's like, well, why would we waste the effort as a society to domesticate animals? We've got all we ever could need or did we really sort of mind the ones that it was possible to sort of, bend to our will to begin with? I don't know. But I've always kind of wondered, it's like, why are there no new creatures that are an integral part of humanity's existence? Because there haven't been for a very long time. I'm trying to think what would have been the last sort of animal to our societal tool belt, and I don't know what it would be. And so sorry for that delay there. Monkey Man says his primate would be the gorilla or a baby monkey. Which monkey there, Monkey Man? And for me, bonobo, those are the best primates, I think. 13 says, power to the beard. How long did it take you to grow this? I completely shaved it in January, so about almost 8 months is this growth. It's been vaguely trimmed a couple of times since then, but not really. More just like, yeah, not really. So 8 months. Andrew Silva says, do you think prolonged THC does irreversible damage to the brain? Andrew Silva, I do not think so. I don't even know, Andrew Silva, if that terminology, irreversible damage to the brain, as we once understood it, is actually something we should be saying anymore. Because the idea of the brain as this idea that you have a finite amount of brain cells, or you have a finite amount of, well, you do technically have a finite amount of brain cells and a finite amount of neural pathways, but we do now know that those can regenerate. And also the things that we, yeah, it's, no, I don't think THC does any damage to the brain, Andrew Silva, let alone irreversible brain damage. I don't think, as far as we can tell, it clearly has an effect on the brain, Andrew Silva, but as far as we know, there's no damage. Just because something, everything you do has an effect on the brain, but there is clearly a correlation, a causational reality, or a loop, not loop, a causational direct pattern between smoking weed and having some kind of neurological difference. But I don't think there's no evidence that it damages the brain, or that it even has any sort of ability to permanently affect it in any ways. I don't think so. And I think the idea, we've got to get further and further away from the idea that, like, you've got this, like, limited supply, this pool of brain cells, and, like, if you do it, if you fuck up, if you do some drugs and you burn out some brain cells, like, you've lost those forever. That is just not true. And also, it's such a rudimentary way of thinking about the way the brain works that it was always empty rhetoric, but now it's actively misleading rhetoric. And I'm not saying, Andrew Silva, that you are guilty of propagating that. Not at all. I'm just saying, like, that's how insidious that idea that, like, your brain is this limited pool of neurons that is constantly being depleted, and every day your capacity to know stuff is going down because your brain is draining away neurons. It's grotesquely simplified. And Andrew Silva, I think I'd mentioned I had done science writing. I had done science writing about traumatic brain injuries for quite some time, and happened to learn a lot about truly irreversible brain damage, like your chronic traumatic encephalopathy. God damn it, it's been so long. You know what I'm talking about. The NFL kind of shit. And just having trouble pronouncing things. That tincture really starting to take effect. Miles Away from Normal, welcome Miles, from Twitch, says, what are we up to? We're up to smoking weed, which I'm about to go refill. I am going to go get a refill on this. I'll see you guys in a second, and then I'll try to catch up on chat some. I only have about 2 dabs left, so we'll save these. The big moments. Monkey Man says he saw a howler monkey in Mexico. Those loud sons of bitches. Probably heard it before you saw it. Okay, before I catch up on chat, I'm just gonna throw out a super quick, free cherry on top. I should actually do this as a cherry on top because it's something I love so much. But we were talking about monkeys. We were talking about primates, simians, all those fun, all our fun sort of genetic cousins. I guess I was, and I want to use this as an opportunity to give a shout out to one of my favorite people and one of my favorite pieces of audio entertainment ever. Favorite people, guy by the name of Dr. John McWhorter. I think he is a professor of linguistics at Columbia, I think, right? Columbia. Should know that. He's also the host of Slate's Lexicon Valley podcast, a podcast about linguistics. And then, most importantly, a great podcast and one you should absolutely listen to. But the thing I want to recommend and the thing I'm going to bring back to primates is his great course. There's this phenomenal company out there called the Teaching Company that does these things called the Great Courses, where they just hire the best sort of lecturers in all kinds of different academic fields, and then just let them teach upon that subject, and then you pay some money and you can take their class, so to speak. John McWhorter, one of the most respected linguists in the world, does one. It's called The Origins of Human Language. It is truly amazing. It's like 30 hours long, which is about, I guess, kind of how long sort of ish a college class would go. It is fucking phenomenal start to finish. I could not recommend it more highly. But I do want to talk about just one very specific thing from it. Thing that just, it's just, filled to the brim with little tiny nuggets of little factoids of joy and goodness and things that you're going to want to, share with everybody and make yourself feel really smart. But this one is my favorite. I cannot find enough excuses to annoyingly bring this up in conversations, but it's just so delightful. So in talking about human language and where we got language from, he brings up the fact that other species do communicate. Obviously, we know this, and it's not only that other species have the ability to communicate, whether it be through songs or clicks or calls or colors or all kinds of things, but we're not unique in just in that ability to communicate, but we are also not, there is some danger of anthropomorphizing here, but it's just too great not to share. We're also not the only animals on this planet to experience beauty, as far as we know. It is has been documented many times that bonobos, which are like horny, good-natured chimps, bonobos are like dolphins and us. They like to fuck for pleasure and to relieve anxiety. Like, they jack each other off when they're all stressed. I'm not kidding at all. They just like love to JO each other and go down on each other and rub one each other out, like if they're feeling stressed or anxious or whatever. But clans of bonobos, troops of bonobos rather, will often gather at sunset, turn to face the sunset, and all watch it together while holding hands. Isn't that the greatest thing you've ever heard? Doesn't that just bring some kind of measure of, like, okay, like, maybe things aren't so bad. Like, if fucking bonobos can get together and watch sunsets and hold hands, and then after experiencing that beauty, go jack each other off, like, maybe we'll all be okay. I'm not sure how you get from having other animals appreciate sunsets and then jacking each other off to we're all going to be okay, but it feels like you could make that leap. I'd hold your hand. I'm not sure I'd jack you off, though. Okay, Jason says, picked up a book a while back. It was called Marijuana is Safer. So why are we driving people to drink? Jason, it's such a great, I mean, it doesn't need to be litigated over and over. I mean, anybody who smokes weed and does, of course, always come back to the, like, you know, well, it's safer than alcohol. And that is the only reason that argument is not taken more credit, is not given more credence, isn't taken more seriously, is because it's what stoners have been saying forever. Nobody ever just fucking listened. And now it's an old canard. It's like, oh, okay, that's the argument you got to come up with. All right, you know, fuck off. Give me something, you know, come up with something new here. Just refusing point blank to actually engage with that very, very powerful, simple, and true argument. There is in no fucking universe where alcohol is a substance you would prefer your citizens or your society or as a culture to drink, to consume than weed. It is just in no way, in no possible universe could that be true. If anybody ever tries to convince you of it, they are not arguing in good faith. They are a miserable liar that has no faculties, none. They don't. They if somebody just discounts that automatically, we don't ignore people enough, I think, in this world. We always, you know, cancel culture this, cancel culture that, blah 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 blah. Who gives a shit? I think we should be canceling so many more people. We should just there are certain opinions and things that you say that should just automatically disqualify you from ever having anybody ever fucking listening to you again, because if you say those fucking things, it 100% confirms that you do not have a goddamn reasonable, rational, single, independent thought in your fucking head, and you just need to shut the fuck up for the rest of your goddamn lives. And one of those is, if somebody says, hey man, why are you against weed but you drink alcohol, and they give you the like, okay, is that the best you can come up with? At that point, just they are less than human. They're subhuman because they don't have the thing that makes you human, which is the ability to reason, the ability to think, the ability to, you know, put one and two together. If some person expresses that, then they don't have that, and they are not truly human in many real ways. And that's just one very small argument. I mean, weed is just the tiniest tip of that iceberg, but I do have very strong feelings about that kind of shit, and like, we just got to get over the fact that we just got to stop listening. We've got to stop listening to people, because people are very often wrong, especially the people with the strongest, most strongly held opinions. Generally speaking, the more strongly held your opinion, more fucking wrong you're gonna be. Yeah, we give too much respect to people who just refuse to give any kind of critical thought to anything. And those people are to me, they are truly subhuman, because they do not have what it takes to be human, which is the ability to truly think something through. And if you throw that away, if you forfeit that ability, then, in my opinion, you forfeit the right to call yourself a person. Okay. King Yeti says, hey, friend. Welcome back, King Yeti. Good to see you, man. How are you doing? Glad you could join us. Trichrome Head Ted. Welcome, Trichrome Head. I don't think we've had you join us before. Glad you could join us. Monkey Man says, thoughts on CBD compared to cigarettes and cigars, using CBD to quit smoking. If it works for you, Monkey Man, if it works for anybody, I don't understand why anybody would ever have a problem with that. See earlier conversation or comment about people not thinking critically about things, not actually giving stuff any kind of thought. If there is truly good scientific evidence to suggest that people having, I guess, replacing their cigarettes, tobacco with CBD heavy weed can help them quit smoking, then there is zero reason that we should not encourage people to do that. Because, very simply, 100% absolutely, as far as we know, and again, if there's ever reason to believe that this, that this stuff, that the science behind this has changed, then change your mind then. But right now, it seems absolutely irrefutable that you'd prefer people to be ingesting CBD to tobacco for health reasons. So why would you not do everything in your power to incentivize them to go down that path? I don't know. I have this whole thing. I need to write it down at some point, where I have this list of things that I feel like we should do a better job of teaching, and more sort of abstract concepts, different bags of tricks and things. I think we should definitely, there are a lot of statistical things that I think people should be taught as a rule, that don't even necessarily have any other application in theory, but that are purely, people should be taught so as that they cannot be taken advantage of, or are less likely to be taken advantage of. I think people should be taught Bayesian reasoning when they're 10. You should start learning about fucking updating your priors. If you don't, it's a weird concept, Bayesian, this idea of Bayesian reasoning or Bayesian logic, but it's actually not that difficult. The idea is just very simply, every time you have a new evidence or a new piece of information, well, whatever your prior convictions about that thing was, well, every time you have a new piece of evidence or a new piece of information or new whatever, you then re-update your old convictions about that thought, notion, ideology, yada, whatever, and so forth. That's all it is. It's just a rebalancing. It's the idea that you don't take a position and then hold that position. You weight every piece of evidence as it comes in and then make sort of a probability distribution. It's not as complicated as it sounds. We should also be teaching people regression to the mean. I think that is something that people just don't fucking get. And that is so important in so many different ways. Regression to the mean is to be very simple, but it's a very simple idea, is that what goes up must come down and what goes down must come back up. It's a very simple statistical idea that just because you have a large fluctuation from the mean, because something crazy happens, that you should not then expect the next thing to be that follows to instead be just as crazy as the crazy outlier thing that just happened was, but instead you should expect the thing to go back to pretty much the way it was before. If some guy who was an NBA basketball player I don't know how many points is a good number of points in a game. Let's say somebody had been making 15 points in a game. I don't even know if that's possible in basketball. I don't think so. It's 2 points. No, 3 pointers. 15 points in a game on average. Regression to the mean says, well, let's say that's their average. They've been shooting 15 points for 2 years, but then they all of a sudden have a game where they shoot 50 points. Well, a lot of people would then think that the next game that person is going to become, well, shit, they shot 50 points. That's crazy. They've got all this new amazing ability and power and talent. They're going to shoot, 50 this game or more. They've only gotten better. But that is not what happens. What almost, especially in things that are truly stochastically distributed, randomly distributed, what happens is you go back to the way it was before. That the 50 points was the random occurrence. That was just a blip. It was just an outlier. It was just a random occurrence. And that the expectation going forward should not be that you should expect this dude to score anything like he has before, but instead should score pretty similar to what he's always been scoring. And that, then when you average that data out in the long term, his average will still end up being pretty much the same because that's the way averages work. But that is just a single example of regression to the mean. It applies to everything in this world: markets, relationships, fucking genetic talent, luck. All of that stuff is just regression to the mean. Similar to regression to the mean is survivorship bias. I think survivorship bias should be talked. Those are just, I need to get off the more logical side. I also just need to get off this topic because I could go on for this forever. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. King Yeti says, my mom did all sorts of drugs and my father was an alcoholic meth cook. She always told me I would rather you smoke weed than drink one drop. Your mother was a smart woman, King Yeti. Glad you grew up with somebody with some brains. There was a study that said more than 30% of people have no inner monologue. Talk about NPCs. King Yeti, I had never heard that before. I find that notion of not having an inner monologue so almost impossible to wrap my head around. Like, I don't even know if I understand what that means. Like, this idea that there's this constant current, for me, there is an inner monologue going all the time. Even when I'm, having very involved conversations with people, there is still another part of me that is always sort of self-diagnosing, talking back to myself about the things that I may have just said, sort of, always analyzing, self-analyzing. I cannot imagine what that would be like to not have that. To me, I guess, the inner monologue is what I think of when I think of, it's like, well, what is the self? What is yourself? It is, if I had ever were to think about, well, what is the self, I would think it's your inner monologue. It's that constantly running B track in your head that's, analyzing things, looking at things, second guessing things, critiquing things. And the fact that 30% of the people say that they don't experience that is just wild. Wow, I would love to look that up. Space Dude says, do you experience any short-term memory loss with daily consumption of THC? Space Dude, that's a good question. That's a very good question. I don't think so, but there aren't enough times, I guess, in the day where I would be encountering memory loss that it would be an issue, where it would be like, oh man, I can't remember this. In many ways, I have a pretty good memory, Space Dude. I guess I have a pretty good sorting system in my brain. All of the unimportant details are the things that I guess my brain decides are unimportant get jettisoned very quickly, and things that seem like are important I tend to remember. I think I have a pretty good autobiographical memory if forced to guess. So I don't really think that I do. Physiologic says, you mean you have the ability to mean what you say and say what you mean. That constant director's narration is not always a good thing. Good question. I don't remember if I do or don't. A Fizzlig gig. I don't know how to say that name. I'm going to call you Fizz. Let me know how you'd like me to say it, and I apologize for butchering it. It says, in general, I also like Fizz's grammar here. Pretty good. In general, marijuana gives you the ability to let stuff that doesn't matter just slip away. That is true. I do think that marijuana probably does affect my short-term memory in that the chaff of the day does sort of get dissolved more easily. But the stuff that I crucially would want to remember, I do tend to remember. Like I consume a lot of books, and I feel like I have a pretty good recall on those kind of things. Fizzle Gig. Well, thanks, Fizzle Gig. And thanks for joining us, man. Glad you could join us. Space Dude says, you are lucky. I had to stop weed because it was messing with my memory and making me more spaced out. Sorry to hear that, Space Dude. That really does suck, my man. Were you finding yourself mostly spaced out when you were... Was it making you, messing with your memory when you were also not high, when you weren't on weed? Were you getting spaced out just randomly throughout the day? I definitely do not find that happens to me. I have a pretty... I will freely admit that weed will make me more late. Like, yeah, it does definitely have an ability to reduce my sort of drive to do, I don't know, whatever kind of a small little tasks and chores. Not cripplingly so. And often I find it better to do those things. I much prefer to do them while on weed. It's just the drive to do them while on weed can be suppressed. But Fizz says, I consume books, media, movies, TV all day long, every day. Have for 20 plus years. Fizz says, same here. He doesn't space out, but my dill eye gaff muscle grows immensely. Something give a fuck is my guess, is the last three. Don't something. Dilly gaff. Oh. Well, Fizz. Okay, Fizz. Tell me... Fizz, I want to know some of your favorite books, media, movies, TV that you consume all day long, every day for the past 20 years. Oh, do I give a fuck? Do I look like I give a fuck? Oh my god. Jesus. I get that, Fizz. I consume everything too. I'm a real media glutton. Documentaries, movies, TVs. Doesn't like those CBS pieces of shit. Wow, nailed that. But give me some, Fizz, I just need some examples. Give me 3 movies that you love. Just give me 3 movies that you love, 3 books that you love, Fizz. Let's talk about them here. Let's talk about them. Anybody give me your books and movies. The chances that I know something about them are not impossible. Just like faves, movies, doesn't have to be your faves, but Big Trouble in Little China, okay. Pacific Rim. Somebody likes their action films. Ugh. And A Knight's Tale. Oh, wow. Those, okay. I've got to admit, Fizz, you've already got me intrigued. When I ask people their favorite movies, and it doesn't come back with fucking, goddamn, Shawshank Redemption or Inception or, name your sort of cliched favorite movies. Or, their favorite Marvel movie or their favorite R-rated studio comedy. I get intrigued. Those are three very curious favorites. They're all three with audiences, Big Trouble in Little China, that's John Carpenter, right? I mean, it's Kurt Russell. I've never actually seen Big Trouble in Little China. Shame on me. Pacific Rim, generally, I'm gonna guess you're a Guillermo fan, period. Pacific Rim, boy, what a movie that inspires very strong opinions. And A Knight's Tale. Now that one is another one that has a huge, follow. I'm surprisingly big, robust fan base. I get it, and I also don't get it with A Knight's Tale. Pour one out for Heath. Monkey Man says, I've read 6 books. I'm on my 7th. Does that mean 6 books in, what's the time span? Your life, this month, this year, today, this week, this century, this millennia, since the dawn of the universe? And what books have you been reading, Monkey Man? What are you reading right now? So those 3 movies, Big Trouble in Little China, Pacific Rim, and A Knight's Tale, are all movies that Fizz keeps on his phone for frequent viewings. Very curious. Fizz, I do not know. I don't think I know where your name comes from. I don't think. I'm not saying Inception or The Shawshank. Sorry. Let me back up and just apologize for my sort of blitheness and dismissing of The Shawshank Redemption and your Inceptions and your Godfather Part 2s. Those are all great movies in their own right. I have no problems with those movies. I think they're all fantastic movies. And I think they're all fine to have as your favorite movie. It's just, those conversations are very easy, because, everybody, there's so many people that have those as their favorite because they're such great movies. I've talked about them enough, but I love it when people have movies that are just so left field. You're like, what the fuck? How the hell is that your favorite movie or one of your favorite movies? How is that the movie you have downloaded on your phone? And those always lead to fascinating conversations when it's something so unexpected, because I find people usually have really interesting reasons for loving movies that are sort of not part of the orthodox canon, I guess. The Good Dogs, Two Good Dogs, says The Godfather, one of his favorites. King Yeti, not disappointing us with his Fear and Loathing. That absolutely seems like Mr. Yeti's kind of movie. I just, outside of Brazil, and Brazil is a movie that I did watch on acid, and it's the only way you can watch it, because I did watch Brazil not on acid, and it wasn't the same movie. I mean, it was the same movie, but I did not like Brazil the first time I watched it. I really don't like Terry Gilliam movies, period. I don't like Fear and Loathing. I don't like 12 Monkeys. I don't like it. I just don't like that sinister and nihilistic and just that feeling of everything's fucked, you're fucked, and it's just gonna get more fucked, and and even having hope is totally fucked. I sometimes that just, if not done with a detached sense of irony, I find a Coen Brothers style nihilism, that's fine with me. But when it's that really bleak, the joke is on you nihilism, I sometimes find that difficult to stomach, and Terry Gilliam can sometimes be that way for me. But watching Brazil on fucking acid, one of the several times, 5 or 6 times I've done it, was amazing. It was kind of like, okay. I mean, I got what Gilliam was doing the first time, but the whole logic of it started to, like, it really, yeah, I can't explain. Quality of dogs. Fizz is a Pacific Rim fan because of its soundtrack. I don't really remember the soundtrack of Pacific Rim. Was it like licensed music, or was it like was it an orchestral soundtrack? I don't remember it at all, actually. Jason Andrew confirms that Big Trouble in Little China was John Carpenter. I need to see it because I love John Carpenter. I mean, The Thing is as good as everybody makes it out to be. The Thing really is that fucking good. Yeah, and John Carpenter is, I think, will be, if we all continue and this art of cinema keeps going, John Carpenter will be a big chapter in some eventual cinema textbook. He'll be, up there with there'll be a John Carpenter chapter next to your, like, fucking, Soderbergh chapter. I think, and they both kind of remind me of each other in the same, of Soderbergh and Carpenter, and they're like, just how they just like to fucking experiment and play around and jump genres, and like neither of them as directors have at least doesn't seem like they've got these golden calves that they're unwilling to sacrifice. I like them both. I think they're just both so interesting, even if I don't like some of the things and even hate some of the things that they do. Like Ocean's 12, the worst movie ever made. Sea of Noise. Welcome, Sea of Noise. Howdy back at you. Samuel Godoy, welcome Sam, says A Clockwork Orange, one of his favorite movies. Mr. Kubrick. Kubrick, boy, gonna get me in more trouble. A guy I also I don't know. I guess the people that are known more primarily as visual auteurs, not that that's all what Kubrick is, don't really do it for me as much. I have to have more to hang it on. I am not a Kubrick. I'm not a Kubrick obsessive. I'm not a Kubrick completionist. Never gonna watch Barry Lyndon in my entire life. Fuck you, Barry Lyndon. Don't give a shit. I'd rather rub sandpaper across my eyes for 3 hours. But all the others I've seen, and there are things I really like about all of them. But I do find there is not a Stanley Kubrick movie that I don't find to be boring, at least for some long stretch, in every single Stanley Kubrick movie, including The Shining. I think The Shining has, like, and again, it's probably because his, like, let me just wow you with cool camera tricks and cinematography and trippy geometric patterns in the carpet. But yeah, I respect Kubrick, but I wish I could be more of a Kubrick fan. So I know that it instantly throws me out of the old being able to call yourself a fan of movies club, but I gotta call him like I see him. And I respect Kubrick. I even like some of Kubrick's. There's moments I love in every Kubrick movie I've seen, but he doesn't reserve the same level of animosity towards me as somebody as, say, like a David Lynch, who I don't get. It's not. Kubrick, you know, it's like, I get it, I just don't, it's just not for me. David Lynch, I don't get it, and I don't get it when you say you get it. And I don't believe you when I say you get it. And I don't believe David Lynch ever really had anything to get at all, ever. And I find the idea of the critique of LOL, it's nightmare logic, LOL, figure it out, get over it, duh, is just like a fucking free pass for David Lynch's shitty storytelling and inability to craft a narrative that, like, fuck you, Mulholland Drive, fuck you. You're terrible. Let's just be honest. Mulholland Drive is a terrible movie. Boy. Okay. Monkey Man. What? Okay. Monkey Man's reading wait, 6 books? How are these the 6 books that you've read? And I didn't know that Matthew Weiner wrote a book. That's the fucking Mad Men dude? Cool. Weird. Sea of Noise says, do you think cooking edible chocolate into cookie batter would take away the chocolate edible's potency? So no, it should not. It shouldn't affect it. I wouldn't think. If you have a chocolate bar that that is infused with weed and you melt it down and you then bake that chocolate into something else, that the THC should retain in there. It shouldn't, like, I mean, there may be some, you know, very small percentage that is lost in the, you know, by exposing it to all the extra oxygen that you would have to do, and maybe even in the cooking process, some of it. But I mean, it's below the, you know, it's just activating it. I would think it would be fine, but I don't know that for 100% sure. Fizz, he is going to list out for me all of the movies that are currently on his phone. A Knight's Tale. Oh, and here's where I'm going to show you my fucking, I have a weird thing with memory, and I have this thing with movies and release dates where I'm very good at knowing movie release dates. So, like, Avatar, I can tell you, basically, if you can give me a movie that came out since the year, say, let's say 2000, and made, say, $50 million at the box office, I can probably tell you the year it came out. So, like, I can go through here, and I can get even more specific, like the movies that have come out since this time frame. Like, Avatar is December 2009, Edge of Tomorrow is June 2000, is it 13 or 14? Edge of Tomorrow is June. I'm going to say it's June 2013, but it may be 2014. Pacific Rim is 2013 July. Platoon, Spaceballs, your Oliver Stone, your Mel Brooks, your Goonies, your Richard Donner, your Last Starfighter, I don't remember, your Tropic Thunder, which is your fucking Derek Zoolander, your Ben Stiller directed, and Tropic Thunder is August 2009, I think. And UHF, what's his name? That guy who does the pop songs. Weird Al. Never seen UHF. Monkey Man, you have, I've got to admit, quite the interesting taste in books. You have a very interesting selection of books that you have read. Fizz watched Fear and Loathing for the first time on acid, which I assume is probably the way you want to watch it the first time. I've only ever seen it on not acid, and I did not like it at all. None. But then again, my experience on Brazil changed, but I had very different feelings about the original text of Brazil and Fear and Loathing. Sea of Noise is one of his favorite movies is The Science of Sleep. That's the Michel Gondry movie. Sea of Noise, right? That's the movie that came out after The Eternal Sunshine, like November 2006 is my guess. The Science of Sleep, November 2005, somewhere in there. If that's the Michel Gondry movie. I've never seen The Science of Sleep, but I have seen, of course, Eternal Sunshine, and I, of course, have seen, not a lot of people did. I really did like Be Kind, Rewind, which a lot of people did not like, with Mos Def and Jack Black. Good movie. Also Michel Gondry. Fizz says, have I ever seen the movie Homegrown? It's a stoner trip of a movie back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I have not. I will check it out. I do like a random stoner movie, and I do have one to recommend to all of you. A great one that almost nobody has seen because it was released direct to video when that was not a very common thing. Like a movie from 2004, I think, with Anna Faris, the great comedic actress Anna Faris, called Happy Face, co-starring fucking goddamn Jim from The Office. What's his name? You know his name. As a weirdo in it. This is before The Office. Check out Happy Face. Truly a great little gem of a stoner movie, and in the quintessential stoner movie where somebody gets way too high and shit happens. That kind of, the essential stoner movie. King Yeti was saying, I was actually saying that Fear and Loathing was a cliche movie. Oh, King Yeti, I'm sorry. Then yes, agreed. Yes, it's King Yeti. The Fear and Loathing is one of those movies that I call a freshman dorm movie. Up there with like a fucking, what are some of their fresh? Donnie Darko's and what's the shitty, dumb Irish hitman movie with Norman Reedus and Willem Dafoe? Boondock Saints, yes. Yeah, Fear and Loathing is in that freshman dorm room category where people who maybe didn't watch a lot of cool movies growing up, then go to college for the first time and then have a friend who does like cool movies, so then they show them these movies that, somebody has told them were cool, and they watch those movies for the first time, and they think those ideas that have been much better portrayed in much better movies are these really cool, groundbreaking ideas, when in fact they're just kind of like boring and bad, and not that interesting. Agreed. Sea of Noise says, have I seen They Live? Yes, I have. Sea of Noise, as we were talking about Mr. Carpenter, another just exactly what I was talking about in terms of John Carpenter being a weird fucking guy and a cool fucking weird ass. Just doesn't do things the normal way. The most John Carpenter of all John Carpenter movies is Nightmare on Elm Street, A New Nightmare. The Freddy, is it number 4? Whatever one that one is. That's what I'm talking about is John, is like the fuck yeah, John Carpenter. Todd says Ed Woods. Ed Wood's one of the good Burton movies, right? It's weird. It's like Ed Wood is like, oh, that's like a surprisingly good movie from Tim Burton, who has been known recently for doing really shitty things. Which is ironic because Ed Wood is the director of the most legendary piece of shit, terrible movies ever made. And it's kind of this beautiful little symmetry. Fizz says, he's a genius, but all genius comes with crazy. Mostly true, but also a dangerous stereotype. Fizz says, the moon landing was Kubrick's best work. Fooled people till this day. I love this paper that I read, have heard, well, I've never actually read it. I've heard reference several times to like, okay, let's give some credence to like what it would take, the resources and the amount of people it would take to fake the moon landing. And the amount of people the amount of like actual people that would have to know what was going on is, this study estimates to be over 800. And the amount of resources it would have taken to perform that and then to keep that secret hidden would have been in the hundreds of millions of dollars in the 60s. And they estimate by looking at statistical models of how well secrets can be held between people when financial incentives are yada, 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 this, that, and the others, that if a moon landing were faked, that, of course, these things are bullshit because you can't actually model this, but I love that they tried that using all available models based upon, believe it or not, because we have models based upon how secrets are kept and how data is hidden, that any kind of secret would have broken down in less than 3.5 years, just from the amount of people involved and the financial incentives therein. Even removing the financial incentives part, I think they still estimate that it would have broken down in less than 3.5 years. It's just the impossibility of keeping that number of people quiet for as long as it would have taken in perpetuity is just it's so mind-boggling. But yes, the moon landing was faked, and Kubrick, who a guy it was just as often rumored to be a communist, and Joseph McCarthy would have probably been, well, he was mostly gone by that time, but you know what I mean. Like he was a Hollywood fucking. I mean, he wasn't even fucking American. He was a fucking weirdo, and like the idea that the government would hire him to stage the moon landing is just love it. I love it. I love it. Munch says, Samuel, sorry, let me skip some comments. I like the book for A Clockwork Orange more. I've never actually read A Clockwork Orange, but I know that there are people that don't disagree with you that the original written incarnation is the superior one. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there are people who say the same thing about 2001: A Space Odyssey. Which, right? That was Arthur C. Clarke or whatever. I don't know. What am I talking? I'm so high. I need to get back and do another refill. Lynch. Fizz says, Lynch, was that Twin Peaks? Yes, that is Mr. Lynch. And he's Twin Peaks, Mulholland Drive, Eraserhead, Blue Velvet, that weird Netflix thing that just came out. That's David Lynch. Paul, welcome Paul, says, are you Jesus Christ? Paul, shouldn't you know if you're Paul? Monkey Man says, I know you got all those books at the Dollar General or... Oh, you got all those books at the Dollar Tree? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. The cheaper you can get books, the better. I'm really surprised that they sell literature there. Fizz says, Jesus has ruined long hair and a beard for all of us. What a weird thing to just, I get accused of being, people say I look like Jesus all the time. I look nothing like Jesus would have ever looked. I am an unattractive person. I know this. I am... Whoa, no. I'm going to just stop with what I was saying. Jesus... I'm a tan white man, but Jesus was not a white man, guys. And now normally I'm I'm curious where this will fall on the offensive scale. Like, who would get mad at me? Because I can get people mad at me from all different directions here. As an atheist expressing that Jesus was not white, well, it's like, well, why are you so defensive about that? My argument is I'm not. I'm just trying to say that motherfucker was born in Bethlehem, and Bethlehem at that time wasn't known for its whiteys. But I know Fox News types would be very mad at me for suggesting that Jesus might share a skin color with the same kind of folks that they might be afraid of in certain contexts, that might alarm them, but there is no reason to believe Jesus would be anything other than Jesus could have very much looked like Muhammad's brother, right? I mean, it's very possible. And I am very white. So, yeah. I'm sorry to Jesus. People would think I look like Jesus out there because I don't. And I'm sorry to Jesus because I should just stop talking. What a wonderful German name. Gernhard Reinheimer. Gernhard Reinheimer says, Jesus, erlegt mich. I don't speak German, unfortunately. No spreche Sie Deutsch. Unfortunately. As much as I would love to. Munch RX says they were filming Avatar 2 and 3 before the quarantine. Munch RX, I'm pretty sure they were actually filming Avatar 2, 3, and 4 before the quarantine. At some point, good old Cameron was like, well, let's just go and do it. Let's add another one on while we're doing this. I think they were shooting 3 Avatar movies at once. They added a 4th movie on. It's possible they even added the 5th movie on. And now here's where I'm going to say something truly, that's going to get me in a lot of trouble. I am optimistic for Avatar 2. Bordering on excited. Now, let me back up in time. Let me go back in time 11 fucking years ago. I was the most excited person in the world probably for Avatar. I had been talking about it for years, literally years. I had been talking about it because that's how long it had been taking James Cameron to make a movie. I'm an unabashed James Cameron fan. I think he is one of the best blockbuster filmmakers out there, period, bar none. I mean, Terminator 2 really still does hold up till today. It is still fucking magnificent. Titanic is a great blockbuster film. It really just is. I wish I didn't love it as much as I do. Can't help it. I do, but I do. Aliens. Some days I do actually think it's better than Alien. Kill me. I don't care. Love James Cameron. Love him. True Lies. I even love True Lies. I've got a little dick. It's pathetic. Bill Paxton. He was the only guy that could ever make Bill Paxton tolerable. Game over, man. Sorry, Bill Paxton. Pour one out. You got a little dick. It's pathetic. Bill Paxton. You're my boy. Now, let's go back 11 years. Avatar. It's coming. It's finally fucking coming. I'm getting so excited. It wasn't even a date. Because we weren't really dating. But the first thing I really took the person who would become my wife, several years later, to go do, because we worked together. We were co-workers at university. And I had been talking all summer. I loved just fucking talking about movies. Did back then. I was like, oh, this Avatar thing's coming out. Well, in August of that year, IMAX had a free 15-minute preview to Avatar in 3D in IMAX. You had to fucking jump through hoops to get a ticket, which I did, and took her to go see. And I remember watching it and thinking to myself, wow, I'm sure the movie's going to be way better than this. And Avatar is probably the most disappointing certainly one of the most disappointing movies I've ever seen. It's not a terrible movie. It's fine. I mean, it's no worse than, your average like Marvel movie or whatever. It's just coming from James Cameron and having so much time and momentum and energy put into it, and then to have that, weak ejaculation Jeff that was Avatar. It sucked. But that's just one not so great concept, one not amazing movie in Jim Cameron's career of being a total asshole and amazing filmmaker. And sometimes his first efforts aren't as good as his seconds, because we can all maybe hope that this is a Terminator 1 to Terminator 2 situation, one of the greatest sequels in movie history. It's probably misplaced and probably foolish, but I do have some hope. No, I have more than some hope. I have a decent amount of hope that Avatar 2 will be the movie we all hoped Avatar 1 would be. I have not watched Avatar since the first week it came out in theaters 10 and a half years ago. December 10th, 12th, 2009. I may watch it before the next one comes out. I don't know. But I do have some faith. I need to catch up on chat here. Fizz says, I grew up reading the complete works of Voltaire, Poe, Hugo, Shakespeare. Those are some heavy hitters. You got your philosophers, your moral Victor, your I don't know what I was going to say about Victor Hugo's, your chroniclers of societal struggle, your Poes, your one of the most influential authors in U.S. history, and then Billy Shakespeare. I should also make another controversial statement that I read a lot, I watch a lot, I do, but I do not in any way, shape, or form have any kind of reverence or reflective respect for the quote-unquote classics. I don't care. I don't read them. I don't begrudge anybody who does, but the idea that, like, in order to truly understand some piece of literature that comes out now, you have to understand everything that came before it and the steps that got us to here, and, like, it won't be as rich. It's just patently untrue. And the reason I know that's patently untrue is I guarantee you I read a lot more than normal people, and I've never once willingly, outside of an academic setting, read anything that anybody would term a classic, other than maybe, even though it's too recent to become a classic, would be, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest would be the only thing that would be more than 50 years old that I've read willingly. I just don't believe that idea. It's just not true in any way, shape, or form. You don't have to see Citizen Kane to appreciate fucking her. In no way, shape, or form. And anybody who tries to say differently is just being a pompous, pretentious ass who wants to hold their better taste above you. We have a lot of people talking about Homegrown, which apparently has Ryan Felipe, John Lithgow, and Jamie Lee Curtis, 2 out of 3 good performers there. I'm gonna have to check this out. I will check it out. And looks like a lot of people are concurring with the dorm room movie hypothesis. Monkey Man says Boondock Saints is a good movie, and he has a poster of that movie. I'm glad you enjoy it, man. I know it certainly has its fans. It just wasn't for me. I didn't see it. I mean, I watched it. I just didn't really love it as much as others. Fizz says Groundhog Day, Run Lola Run, Memento, and a new movie for Andy Samberg, I think is what he meant. Palm Springs, yes, I actually gave it as a cherry on top. Great movie. I think the Groundhog's Day formula is I talked about it then. I can't believe more people haven't exploited the Groundhog's Day formula because it is such a perfect storytelling setup. I think as a structure for telling stories, the Groundhog's Day setup is just ingenious. I hope more people continue to use that. It's such a great framework. And to add one to that, it's not a movie, Fizz, but it is a TV show, and it is as good as Palm Springs and Groundhog's Day. But it truly deserves that canon. Is the Netflix show Russian Doll with what's her name? The amazing Orange is the New Black, American Pie, former drug addict, but now amazing. Anyways, great movie. Fizz says it's like Hot Tub Time Machines meets Groundhog Day. Yes, but with more of a heart than either of those movies. Even though Groundhog Day, I don't think it's necessarily better than Groundhog's Day, but it is a great take on the formula. I need to catch up. Muddy Chinchilla says, I lost my shoe. Have you seen it around? It's right back here, Muddy Chinchilla. Give me your address. I'll mail it to you. It looks like some people are cool with my, apparently controversial assertion that Jesus may not have been white. Oh, thank you for the Google Translate there, Fizz. Fizz says, Bill Paxton was a great man. Edge of Tomorrow, great role. Bill Paxton, Fizz, okay. Let me go get a refill. Oh, boy, I really let this shit expire, did I not? That means penance stab. Bill Paxton, I've heard, good dude. Good dude. I heard Bill Paxton was a great dude. But Bill Paxton, I really hate, and don't speak ill of the dead. Oh my God, Bill Paxton really was the worst actor, major actor in major Hollywood movies. I found it genuinely mind-boggling how bad he was at times. In the show that I quite love, Big Love on HBO, back in the days of pre-peak TV, he was the worst part of, Big Love. He was, he kind of just, it's so hard to take him seriously. Bill Paxton has a kind of like this perpetual look of what am I doing here on his face? How the fuck did I get here? I'm Bill Paxton. How did I get cast in Twister? I'm Bill Paxton. I hope nobody notices that, that I slipped through casting before it's game over, man. I never got Bill Paxton. But man, he was in a lot of great things though. Including a movie that has been a cult classic that has been lost. So weird. I was just talking about this movie. I can't wait to come over there and talk about it some more. Bill Paxton was in this great movie from the early aughts called Frailty. A movie that I'm guessing so many people have never even heard of. It was a moderate sleeper at the time, had a lot of critical buzz, but has been totally forgotten since. It is a great little twisty-turny, holy fucking shit kind of... I don't want to say anything else about it because it's one of those movies that's all about twisty-turnies, and even knowing that the twisty-turnies is a disservice. But it's Bill Paxton and fucking Matthew McConaughey, I think, right? Frailty. Just like, look at the reviews and then say, oh, how have I never heard of this? Okay. Fizz says that the doctors killed Bill Paxton on botched surgery. Oh, no. Kelly Starr, hello, welcome. Glad you could join us. Thanks for tuning in. A lot of Bill Paxton references here. And I feel bad for talking even more shit about Bill Paxton after that was over with. Daniel Oren says, Reykjum Gitters. Daniel, that looks Icelandic to me. From the land of Bjork. Wait, and then we have Bergzervine Omar says, what's your favorite strains? Two very Nordic, Scandinavian looking names. Those would not be, obviously, Icelandic names because they are not son or daughter. I guess I just said Icelandic because that looks so much like Reykjavik. Which, it sucks that is such a tourist destination now. One, not only because, it's not good for the sort of landscape there of Iceland, this rush of tourists, but I used to love getting to say Reykjavik because Reykjavik, I think, is the most fun word to say. Like, gross term, the mouthfeel of Reykjavik is the most, I could just say it all the time, but now it's just like, oh, everybody knows that word. It's the capital of Iceland. But before, I always say, like, man, Reykjavik, that is the most fun word to say. Try it right now. Just wherever you're at, just say Reykjavik. And then thank me for saying, like, man, that was a fun word to say. Although I am not in the majority there, apparently according to many different authors and writers, including Tolkien. Tolkien was one himself. Literally, don't fucking ask me because it makes not a goddamn lick of sense. But it is a very, it's called phonoaesthetics. Phonoaesthetics, I think. Phonoaesthetics or phonoaesthetics. I can't remember. I think phonoaesthetics. That the phrase, the two-word phrase, cellar door, is supposed to be the most beautiful phrase, one of the most beautiful phrases. Like the actual sound of cellar door is supposed to just be beautiful. I don't get it. I don't get it at all, but, there you go. There are many people who have, it's not an uncommon thing for people to make that as posit that as a hypothesis. I literally do not get it. Fizz says, I haven't watched Russian Doll. Oh, you should, especially if you like that. I totally skipped the questions from Daniel and Bergzvine, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing all those. Favorite strains? Not really a strain guy, to be honest. Kind of can go any which way with the strains. Much more, I don't notice strain differences as much as some, but I would, if I had to tell you something, I would say probably what are known as like the heavier indicas, like the OGs and stuff. But those are usually just because those have high THC content normally, and that's usually why. But that's it. Okay. So I need to get caught up on chat because I actually have to get going. Gonna get wrapped up here. Daniel says you should have a talk show. Well, thanks. Not sure how many people would find it interesting, but I appreciate that. Look, Twister was a good movie, and he was a good dude, and he filled a role. Back to our good boy, R.I.P. Bill Paxton. I totally feel bad for talking bad about him because I haven't heard he's a good guy. He was obviously a workman, right? Like he put in the effort. He wasn't like I don't want to discredit his work ethic. I just never found his acting convincing, unfortunately. But I do not begrudge him anything. Good on him for his success. You know, I don't give a shit. You know, good for him. I have no critical, cultural, or industry pool, so nobody should listen to me when it comes to who is good at things or what things are good. He's going to say Weird Science, calling it now. Frailty, fucking dark-ass movie. Great movie. Yes, correct. Matt. Oh, you do. You did know Frailty. Okay, good. Somebody knew Frailty. King Yeti says, I thought you liked Gorilla Glue number 4. King Yeti, I do. Yes. That is usually the answer I give, King Yeti, when somebody says, what's your favorite strain? But people like to know like a bunch of things, like, you know, give me some. And Gorilla Glue is the one that if somebody says like, what is your one favorite strain? But the thing about Gorilla Glue is it's so big and so sort of, okay. This gives me enough to know about what you should know about Gorilla Glue is that I have seen it at dispensaries listed as indica, sativa, and hybrid. Gorilla Glue number 4. So, you know, it's like if I'm trying to be somewhat consistent, I just go with say to people like, oh, what are your favorite kind of strains? I'll say like, oh, the heavy indicas like OGs. Gorilla Glue, I usually think of as a heavy indica, but it's not necessarily. Many people think of, you know, listed as a hybrid, whatever. But yes, you are right that Gorilla Glue, if push came to shove, if I had to pick a desert island strain, it would be that. Fizz says, watch Weird Science. He was young back then. I have never seen Weird Science. I will have to check it out, Fizz. I mean, it's a beloved movie. Can see what all the fuss is about. And Fur Bear says, finally caught a live stream. Fur Bear, so glad you could join us. Unfortunately, I'm just getting ready to say goodbye for the evening. Gonna log off, but I hope you will be able to join us for a future live stream. I should hopefully be live streaming around the same time tomorrow. I really do hope and promise to be better about putting stuff on Twitter ahead of time. I should have a new review out. There will be one more review out this week. I can't tell you whether it'll be Thursday or Friday, but there will definitely be a live stream to follow. So look for that. And in the meantime, I am going to wait 1 second, says Fizz. I can wait a second. Fizz, one last question. Okay, Fizz, I'm ready. And King Yeti says, Gorilla Glue number 4 should be a pure sativa because it's a sour diesel crossed back to itself. In theory, absolutely. In practice, the names are, I mean, there is no meaning to any name of weed because anybody can grow anything and call it anything they want because there is no governing body. And that's exactly what people do. So the Gorilla Glue number 4 was that, but what it is now is very different than what it once was. I'm glad to be back too, Fur Bear, and I hope we'll get to see you on a live stream. It's been good to be back, and I'd love to hang out with you again, man. It's been some time. Angel Blast, thanks for joining us. Says, let me have a question, laughing my ass off. Do you have a review or opinion of the G Pen Connect? And then, Fizz's question. Do you know about our Lord and Savior, Baby Metal? I don't, Fizz. Fill me in before I go. And then Angel says, I've never tried the G Pen Connect, but I know it has its legions of fans. Every time I talk about like my beloved Volcano or like the Puffco. I get people always saying, you got to try the G Pen, you got to try the G Pen. And that may be the next piece of hardware I go with, just from the overwhelming number of people I have telling me to try it. I will check that out, Fizz. It is your favorite band, Baby Metal. Check out the song Road of Resistance. Co-written with Dragon Force. Boy, that is going to be a hell of a song then, I imagine. At least quite technically proficient. Oh, and there you go, Angel. Furbear totally confers the opinions that the G Pen Connect is great. And Fizz also says that the Road of Resistance must be watched as a live recording. It is the only way to experience it, which is how I will do so. So I'm going to go check out Road of Resistance. I also have Weird Science on the back burner. Some other things in there that I'll go back through and check out. Oh, okay, Angel. And I will. That'll be the next piece of hardware that I take a look at. And I appreciate it, man. Thanks, Fizz. I have a wonderful evening yourself. It was really cool hanging out with you. I hope to do it again in the future. Thanks for chilling with us, man. All right, guys. Good night, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you again on the next live stream, sometime tomorrow or Friday.